Greetings! This is Saturday Mornings with Trusler and Mac. I am Mac, and with me, as always, is a legendary hero, Trusler. How you going, Taylor?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for asking. How are you doing?
Oh, man. Very, very interesting week for me. A lot of important decisions were made. A lot of really good video game news all around. No BS. Like, well, actually, scratch that one instance, which I will touch upon. But man. Yeah.
Gonna be all right.
Yeah, I mean, this is not something new with this community, but you know, it's just, and the fact that what's happened recently happened with Tales of Hysteria. It's a new trend that's specifically happening for one reason. I'll get into it a little bit, but
I look forward to it.
I was playing some games. I was looking forward to playing a game that I was enjoying, but I've decided to scrap it, which is also connected to another piece of news we're going to be discussing.
Woo-hoo.
So I will probably lift the sword aloft, and I shall point it at you to deliver the first bit of news.
Oh goodness, you're putting me on the spot. All right. Obviously, something exciting happened for a lot of gamers. A lot of gamer boners peaked up there, and that is the whole Fallout 4 trailer was released.
Boing.
I absolutely give zero shits for this. I do not care.
I'm the same. Sorry, and it's not like I dislike the Fallout series. It's one of those series I look from afar and say, hey, that's pretty impressive. It's just a type of game that I have zero time for. However, I do have a family member in the other room playing Fallout New Vegas right now. My dad's actually really big into Bethesda games, so he likes Fallout 3, he likes Fallout New Vegas, so he's looking forward to Fallout 4. I'm kind of more happy for him than I am for me wanting to play it, so I'm glad that there's another game my dad can play and sink his teeth into and play 10 million times. So, I do think the trailer was impressive. A lot of people were divided with the visuals. Like, they expected better visuals, but I can see already with my little eyes that it is a lot better than, say, the last big Bethesda game they made, of course, was Skyrim. I can see the graphics a lot better than Skyrim. I think they were all talking about how, like, the dog looked janky. I said, yeah, he looked janky, but if you actually look very closely, he has some amazing animations if you look closely. Like, I was impressed with the animation, you know, just how the dog turned and everything. I was like, awesome, I'd rather a better animated model than a better textured model any day, so... And that's the people pitching. It's like, oh my god, the textures of the dog look horrible. It's like, well, not really. He looks presentable to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, a lot of people are excited for it, which is fine. I mean, that's cool. You know, there's another game for people who enjoyed 3 and who enjoyed New Vegas. Now they're going to be able to hopefully enjoy 4. But I mean, it's... I don't know. This is a series I don't care for at all. Like, I do not... Like, I don't like it. Honestly, it's one of those things that I look at it and I just don't like it. And part of it's a personal reason. I had came back from studying in Japan, and I had roomed with like 6 other people in this apartment. It was like 6 or 7 of us. Actually, I think there was like 8 of us plus 2 neighbors that would always come over. And the living room, the place where you kind of like enter into the apartments, there were about 5. There were 5 computers, and 3 of them were constantly playing Fallout 3. It had just been released, and it was just chaotic to have to, like, every waking moment, even if I wasn't around and I was at class, like, I'd get up, be awake, eat breakfast, be there for about an hour or so, head out to go to class, come back, people still playing it. It fucking drove me insane, and it just left a really bad... I know that's, like, really incredibly superficial and just has nothing to do with the game. But it just really turned me to the point where I was just like, no, fuck that game. I don't care for it. I don't care for the series. I don't care how different the earlier games were. I just don't care. And to see so many people just be like, yeah, okay, whatever, fine. That's, but to me, I'm just like, I just don't care.
I think that's sort of the same thing with me, and I was actually asked this recently about do I play World of Warcraft, and I think how you feel about Fallout 3 is how I feel about World of Warcraft. It's just a game that just does not interest me, and you can actually be happy the fact that you had like a first-hand experience with the game. You didn't have to buy the game to know you didn't like it. You already had it like shoved in your face, and you're like, I don't like this game, and I don't like it enough to want to even look at it. And there's games like that. There's games where it's just like, I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested in having any, sort of like devoting my time to even having curiosity about it, and that's just it, So I completely understand, and I've known Fallout since 1 and 2, and for some odd reason, I never found the time to play closest to Fallout 1 and 2 when I spell. I love those games, and they play exactly like Fallout 1 and 2, except they're Dungeons and Dragons. And that was back in my big Dungeons and Dragons days, so that was kind of more my speed, Swords and sorcery, high adventure, that's more my deal. Post-apocalyptic stuff is actually my least favorite setting, of any sort of fictional environment. And that's why I'm probably the number one person in Australia who's very hesitant to go watch Mad Max. Because it's just like, sure, card chases look cool, set designs are all cool. It's just in that type of atmosphere that it doesn't interest me. It's not that it bothers me. No, it doesn't bother me. It's just, would be the best described is I'm huge on cyberpunk. Like, it's just shit's super, super tech, robots, androids, all that sort of thing. Blade Runner, essentially. That's my thing.
Yeah, Blade Runner, like at least the book, it kind of goes into, if I remember right, it goes into a detail about how things are very desolate. It doesn't get portrayed in the movie, but I do remember that being the case. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but I could have swore.
Yeah, I don't think it's nuclear fallout. That was just society crumbling, basically.
It was from some sort of nuclear fallout or some. I could have swore there's like a section of it where, who's the main character? What's his name? Totally blanking.
Rick.
Okay, Deckard. Yeah, he takes care of all all of his duties. Let's just say, and he kind of just runs off, and he's kind of in this like wasteland area and stuff for a little while, and it doesn't really come up in the movie other than like right at the beginning where they're kind of saying, oh, you can go to Mars and enjoy a new life and all that kind of stuff, where it's painting it up to be like this utopian thing, and people like that. That's a bunch of bullshit.
But okay, cool. But yeah, it's just not my thing. There's so many other sort of environments that it is my thing. So yeah, so to end it, happy for my dad. Gonna use my talent elsewhere.
Right. So yay for you guys that want to play it. No care from me. Sorry. Do you want to take the next one there, or do you want me to roll off another one here?
I'll do Happy Fun Time
Okay.
just very quickly. I was going to go into my rant, but I'll do just a quick sort of roundup of a video I did on. Recently, there was a Nintendo Direct last Sunday where in Japan they basically showcased all the stuff that they're releasing for the summer, and also sort of showing off some stuff that are coming soon. And there was stuff like a new Monster Hunter game for the 3DS. There was a trailer for Dragon Quest VIII, and I really enjoy Dragon Quest trailers because it's another reason for me to listen to the Dragon Quest theme while there's some awesome visuals. And I did get to see Mori and Red in the game, which is really cool because I've played that game to oblivion. I'm so used to seeing the four main characters like every time the battle sequence would happen. So to see the battle sequence happen and see Mori and Red in there is kind of like a big jolt. just like, hey, that's not what I remembered, So it's really cool to like switch it up. I'm actually kind of impressed at how great the game is running on the 3DS. I don't know if that's exactly how it's going to run, but from what I've seen in the trailer, it's really good. I said before in the last episode, the textures won't be one for one for the PS2, but it's not game breaking. It's pretty damn good for a handheld version of an 80-hour game. So I am very much looking forward to that. Whether it would be localized or not, well, 9 days from now, we might know. We may not. So I'm happy for that. There's one other game, but I'm going to save that till later. One of our glorious segments here on Saturday Mornings with Trusler and Mac. Lastly, I want to talk about is Project Treasure. And I like this game because I think it's original. Is it original with its design? Not necessarily, but the theme of it all is really cool. Essentially, it's a 4-man squad action game where you raid tombs and you have to collect treasure. And I'm just like, something as simple as that, you think it's been done before, but I can't remember the last game where that's kind of like the objective. It's like when you play an RPG, collecting treasure on the way to the goal, that's like a side offering. No, this game, the objective is to loot the treasure. And the one thing I saw that just made me really happy is you have to physically loot the treasure. Like, as soon as you get to the treasure room, you have to get someone to get out a sack and scoop up the treasure. And I'm like, oh man, that's cool. But I can see some really like tough situations, like someone scooping the gold, and there might be like a shit ton of mummies that just come out of nowhere, and the 3 other players have to fend them off to make sure the one person scoops up all the treasure. And I'm just like, sometimes the most simplest concepts for games actually yield the most greatest experiences. And this is only exclusively for Wii U. This is the type of game people buy consoles for. Just the weird, off-the-wall ideas that can only be available on a system. And it kind of defines a system as a whole. And I'm going to give it a try. I'm not really into like multiplayer that much, or been sort of like encouraging myself to play more multiplayer with my friends and people of the community. And this is a game that I can fully have a go at. Now, the biggest reservation is, of course, that Nintendo's online infrastructure is not the best. So, it brings into question, like, how good is this game going to run? Because it's a pretty decent-looking game. Just before I go any further, it is made by Namco Bandai that has become this sort of unsung savior of the Wii U. Like, they tap Namco Bandai to make them a lot of exclusive games. Because if you don't know this already, they are actually ones responsible for making the new Smash game for Wii U. And they've got the Pokemon Tekken game coming out for the arcades, which is essentially going to come out for Wii U. That's a given. And, wow, man, I mean, good on Namco Bandai for, like, helping out a system that a lot of people thinking is going to get abandoned soon. So, I think it's going to stick in there for another year or two, and thankfully we got some really unique games like Project Treasure. I don't know what it is, just the fact I saw the guy scoop the treasure, I just said, yes!
Scooping treasure!
For once, someone bloody did it. I'm fantastic. And you know what I want to see, dude? Is like, they have like a weight system where you can scoop as much treasure as you can, but if you try and scoop too much, you'll be like Jabba the Hutt, trying to get out of the tomb. And what would be even cooler, but a lot of people would probably not want me to say this, is if you probably have rival hunters who can shoot the loot and the gold balls out. And you'd be like, oh shit, gonna make it out of there. The thoughts are endless. The possibilities are endless, and I think it's really cool what they're doing. And by the way, this is actually made by the guy who created Tekken. And I love it when old video game designers take their time and create a new IP. Especially after they've been sort of pigeonholed into this position for a very long time, where they just make this one series. Because he was just mainly responsible for Tekken, and then he sort of got a higher position. He sort of overseed a lot of other projects are sort of like an advisor. But no, this is kind of his new sort of baby. So I hope it really takes off. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, it's always good to see, as you said, people that are, you think are stuck doing the same role over and over, are only for this sort of game to try something different. I mean, that's kind of, I guess, something. It's not to be disappointed when somebody like Igarashi or Inafune make a spiritual successor to something, because I mean, if that's what they're good at and that's what they want to make, then by all means. But it is interesting to see this dude who makes Tekken and see how Tekken evolves to what it is now, to thinking, oh, let's try a treasure hunting game. So
yeah, and it's cool. And just before I shall round it off here. It's not just a game where you shoot guns. You also have like a character that uses katana and all sorts of weapons. So I was trying to think of a game to compare it to, but I've got nothing. So, which is good. So if you got a Wii U and thinking there's nothing coming out, just know on the horizon there is stuff coming out. So one to look forward to.
Cool.
I shall throw the orb back to you.
Right. Well, I thought you were going to mention this the way you were opening it up here, but good old Splatoon. People are loving on Splatoon there. And I haven't heard anything about having connecting issues other than when they were doing like the trial runs of stuff. So maybe they're fine when it comes to online stuff now. Who knows? Maybe.
They've had a lot of practice though, because they've tried a lot with the Wii and everything. So I know eventually they'll get it right. So if everyone's having like really good connection with Splatoon, I'm really happy for them.
I don't know if they're having good ones, but I haven't heard complaints about it. So take that as you will.
Yeah. One thing that I was really surprised is it sold its shipment in Japan. Like,
it's
outright.
It's one of those things that, it's a new IP, it's a new kind of game, and people are loving it because it's something different. Good on Nintendo. And that's where this kind of comes in, and the news that I have here is that evidently for free DLC in August for Japan, as of right now, they are going to be, for Splatoon, they're going to be giving Ika Musume costumes. And Ika Musume is the like Squid Girl. I don't know if you've ever seen.
I've briefly seen like I think it might have been just like an image or something.
Yeah, I've never seen the show or anything, but I do know people who like that show and just like that character and stuff. And I mean, it's kind of an obvious selection to make just because of how the Splatoon characters have kind of got that the hair kind of come down and make it look like squid tentacles and all this kind of thing. So
yeah,
that's.
And the fact they are squids.
Well, whatever they're squids that turn into humans, children that turn back into squids. Yeah. So they're coming out with like free DLC of a costume of that, which I think it's nice that it's not only is it free, but that it's something that people will want as DLC, not just some kind of free DLC that nobody cares for. So.
No, I'm really happy the game is selling, and I said I wanted it to be successful just because it is a new IP, and it does have sort of like that Nintendo magic about it, and it is yet another super competitive Nintendo game that will have some longevity in the long run. I mean, you could have games nights that, if you just had a Wii U, it would consist of Splatoon, Smash, and Mario Kart 8, so that's kind of impressive. And Mario Party if you're that way inclined. I kind of like my Wii U, so I want to keep it alive. So
my brother brought his over, and I've played a little bit of it, like just the Wii U in general. But what little bit I've played, I fucking love that Catch Mario game that's on the like that compilation of mini games. I can't think, what is it? like Nintendo Land, or I don't remember exactly what it is, but there's one mini game where it's you, like one of you controls the actual like giant pad, and you're supposed to look at that, and you're Mario, and you're supposed to run away from everybody else. And everybody else is looking at the screen, they're trying to catch you, sort of thing. And fucking love that game. That game's a lot of fun. So
it's so funny. That's probably one of the only few Nintendo. Well, actually, there's a lot of Nintendo-made games. I don't have the Wii U yet, but that's just one I haven't gone out of my way to get. And the Zelda fan in me wants to play that little mini Zelda game, but I know it won't be worth it in the end. But if I see it for like $10, why not?
So
must have it. Must have all things Zelda.
But yeah, that was a Splatoon thing. I'll rattle off another one here. Amazon, of all fucking companies, are looking for people for a new PC game project. So, title this under the whole, I don't have a title for it, but looking for a job, people. Amazon.
We'll have to do this because it's a great segment. It's I really think it's awesome that you come out of your way to sort of tell the community to say, hey, there's jobs to be had making games, so we'll have to think of something in the future. So, no, that's
PC game
really
project
cool.
by Amazon.
Wonder what it'll be. Who knows?
But,
we live in an age where a dating sim about pigeons can be made. I mean, anything is possible. Please note, fuck that game. Seriously, fuck that game.
They listed a whole bunch of people that have been a part of a bunch of other big selling games, so who knows what in God's green earth they're thinking of doing for it. But I highly doubt it is going to be a pigeon love simulator. Just...
Anyways,
so I'll pass that back to you.
Alrighty, I think it's time to get the rage juices flowing just a bit, because there's an ongoing trend in Japan and just the rest of the world, which I think they need to basically knock this shit off immediately. Tales of Exterior, everyone lost their mind essentially because of one character. Because one character that was advertised wasn't in the game as much as everyone else thought. They went and fucking lost their shit. Recently, there was a active time... what do they call it? Anyway, there was an event for active time battle, something like that. But it's an event where Square Enix holds and they give a little bit of information on their Final Fantasy games. Of course, they talked about Final Fantasy 15 at great length and talked about episode Dusuke version 2.0 coming out and the changes it's made, and some really nice changes. There's a lot of bugs that are fixed. The game flows better. They showed the new camp screens, which are pretty awesome, which kind of shows sort of the characters in a more lively state. So I think it's pretty awesome. But they did a grand overhaul in the whole sort of setting of the game and how it's changed from Final Fantasy Versus 13 to Final Fantasy 15. And apparently it wasn't just a small change. Apparently they had to rewrite the story in a lot of segments, which is quite impressive. They had the original plot planned out, but when it got turned into 15, it actually, a lot of things in the plot got scrapped and it got reworked. One of the things that got reworked is one of the female characters that was shown in the Versus 13 trailers has been removed from the game. And people lost their fucking minds. And I said, everyone, this game, it doesn't even... It's not out yet. It's not even out. And you're getting mad over a character you've only seen for a couple of minutes in a fucking trailer.
Life must be good.
Oh, man. And the game already suffers from some stupid press with the whole, four guys on a road trip must be gay. Oh, boy band, this is only, just, oh, it's gasm bait for women, rah rah rah. I'm just like, God, just 90s was such a better time for gaming. We didn't think of this shit, you know. People just thinking way too fucking much about stuff that doesn't even need to be thought about, you know, and just like, I know a lot of it's just doing for shits and giggles, but there's been too much of that lately, you know. Just like, man, I can't wait to see more people generally excited for a game, you know, to play a game and not go, you know, I don't know, just it's a character that of a game that doesn't even, I wouldn't say it exists, but it's not finished yet, you know? Why get upset over it? And this is the thing, Taylor. They didn't even just take her out. They just replaced her with another female character. So,
oh my
you know?
God. Oh,
it's just
Jesus.
like...
Oh.
It's just like...
I'm sorry. Oh, just how fucking annoying people are. Oh my God.
And look... People, for anyone who doesn't have any interest in like getting into the creative industries, when you write a story, and I'm glad Taylor's here with me, he can tell you, if you change something in like the second half of the entire narrative, you have to go back and see if it works in with the rest of the story. If it doesn't, you have to make some liberties. Obviously, by the sound of things, the character known as Stella did not basically fit into the grand scheme of things with this new vision of 15. So she got taken out and replaced with this new character that sort of presumably did fit in with the changes. So I'm all for it. But people just losing it over a minor detail at best is just so...
It's laughable, which is why I'm laughing in the first place. But I mean, it's so asinine that people get so worked up over something that they have no control over. I mean, like this is why it's a really bad idea to have everybody looking to see like the whole process being worked out for games, because then they feel like they're a part of it. And while it is good to be a part of it, you can foster this whole, what it seems to do is it triggers this mentality that they have a right to dictate how somebody else expresses their artwork. And I'm going to go that route with a video game. Video games are, to some sort of extent, expressive artwork. Whether you like it or not, that's up to you. But, I mean... it really irks the hell out of me when people try to dictate that, you know, they're gonna throw a fit about it because you did this and that's not right. Oh my God, it's four dudes. You know, it's a major freaking gay gangbang or something stupid shit like that. I mean, it leaves me incredulous because it's just fucking insane that people have that sort of mentality. If you are so butthurt about this, make your own goddamn game. I'll wait.
Yeah. Or as I like to say, don't buy the fucking thing. They're not holding you at gunpoint to buy their product.
That fucking title is.
That's the thing. That's it. That's it. Loyalty to a brand, and you know, I've been betrayed, and I've been there. And now, at my age, I've known better with most series. Just because it has a brand doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be of the same quality. And it's not going to basically hit the notes you want it to. And it's not always going to cater to your taste.
Right.
You know?
It's a little too much self-importance about, you know, it's your money. And that is an important aspect of it. However, you buy it because you like it. It's not because it's tuned to every want, whim, opinion, thought, feeling that you have. I mean, unless you made it, unless there's just multiples of you walking around making shit and doing other things should be different. God forbid that if people, and of course I don't mean you or any of the listeners, but God forbid that somebody likes something that isn't completely skewed to their own biases. I mean, that's how we grow as people. At least I thought. You know?
I mean, seriously, for all the hate I give 13, at least they did something a little different, and it did hit an audience, which is good. I mean, the game is 100% not for me. Furthest thing from what I like in an RPG, but, you know, there's people out there that like it. I'm sort of happy for them. But I think they also know that it's not my thing. But luckily, that's why I was so happy they brought out episode Duske, because that was kind of like my sort of opportunity to see if this game is worth playing, and I enjoyed it. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm up for it. So and it got nothing else.
Just the butt hurt, the fucking whiny, like self-aggrandizing. I am so important. Fucking stop. Grow the fuck up. Put on your big boy pants or your big boy girl pants or whatever, or your big boy girl, your big girl pants or whatever. I don't care what the fuck you are. Just put on the adult pants and start acting like an adult.
And to lead off this piece, she never even fucking added a word. Like, I love that character. What did she say? What did she say for you to love this character? You only seen
my boner loved her.
Her visually.
My boner loved her, Greg. Don't you understand?
You know. Oh man. And you know that is that. If you think Stella is not warranting to buy Final Fantasy 15, then don't buy Final Fantasy 15. But just don't put your fingers on the keyboard anymore. just keep a distance. So with that stuff. So, anyways, back over to you.
All right. So, speaking of wanting to make a game, is there you know who Sid Meier is? I hope you know. Yeah, I know you do, Greg.
I most certainly do. I actually played a lot of Civilization 2 back then.
Yeah, he's Civilization Pirates, or is it Pirate? I'm trying to think. I think it's Pirates.
Yeah, that's not my favorite game.
Well, but this I brought it up because this is important. Michael Lyanshenko? He's the founder of this Tasharen Entertainment. He basically, after listening to Sid Meier talk about this, I don't want to say it wasn't a meeting, but like this event where Sid Meier was talking and he kind of talked about games and stuff like that, went up to Sid Meier and said, "Hey, Sid Meier, I love your shit," and asks if he can pretty much make a not, I don't want to say like a carbon cut copy, but make a copy of his game, which happened to be Pirates. And Sid Meier's like, fucking go for it, Broham. And so this dude, Michael, he created this game called Windward. I don't know if have you heard anything about this?
No, I haven't.
Well, he made it Windward, and he dropped tens of thousands of his own money into the game and into making the game, and he only got like $800 or something from people pre-ordering it, wanting it and stuff like that. And eventually he was able to make it, and it kind of blew all of his expectations out, and he's gotten, I want to say, over $300,000 so far from having released the game and whatnot. It's just kind of an interesting little piece to learn. Some dude who, like I love this creator. I'm gonna ask him if I can totally just use the idea he had with Pirates and go from there. And the dude being like, you know what, go for it. And that kind of stuff is stuff that I like. Of course, you don't want to make like a carbon cut copy of. You don't want to just make Mario 2.0 kind of thing.
No, but you can make something that's inspired by those games without totally.
And that's that's the kind of that kind of that creative process that those guys back in the 80s were dealing with. Is you have these inspirations from D&D and Dragon Quest, and
I've been trying to find a name for it. It's like creative succession, like people like, George Lucas watched The Hidden Fortress, the Japanese movie The Hidden Fortress, inspired him to make Star Wars. Tons of film directors watch Star Wars, inspired to make their own movies, and so forth and so forth. It was kind of like Tarantino was the one to want me to go make a movie years and years and years ago, and that's how it works, dude. You get inspired by the art form from one artist to another, so it's how it keeps it alive.
It's not just limited to games and movies. Case in point, books. Anybody who likes Lord of the Rings books and stories, well, Tolkien was inspired by Edison's the worm, the worm Ouroboros. I think I've probably mentioned it to you before in private sometime.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was inspired not only by his horrific events in World War One that he had to live through, but also from this book, which kind of led to him to write The Hobbit and everything. So, there's nothing wrong with that sort of thing. So,
And it is really nearly impossible in this day and age to be 100% original. But you can take things that you have learned and love and sort of put them into a new sort of spin on things in a new setting. So, which kind of makes me a tad bit of a hypocrite for what's been happening recently. Not to sort of hijack your segment, good sir. One of my favorite movies of all time that brings back a lot of great memories, and it was in a time where my family didn't have like a whole lot of money. They were really hard workers, and I think I was like in primary school, and I didn't really have much, and I didn't really want much. What I did have is a rewritable VH tape, just a blank VHS tape, and one night I taped Big Trouble in Little China. And I watched that blank, that just normal everyday VHS tape, and I watched for 7 years, on and off. One of my favorite things to do, and Big Trouble in Little China has always been one of my favorite movies of all time. I love it. Recently, there was news that The Rock wants to reboot it and stars Jack Burton, and my reaction was, I think my first message on Facebook of the day was, I woke up to this news because it was Johnny Millennium's video on his thoughts of Big Trouble in Little China, and I saw that, and it's like, I just woke up, people, and now I'm going back to bed.
Well,
yeah.
I've never seen that movie, and to see, because I watched that video of Johnny, and he was like he was dumbfounded and just not even like awestruck in a good way, just completely, the fuck are you guys doing? You are totally ruining something that didn't need ruined. Kind of vibe out of it.
Yeah.
And is the movie really that good? Because is it really? If it's a lot of 80s fucking cheese, I won't stand for it, obviously.
Then you probably won't like it. I just like the characters, the plot. It's essentially some kind. I've been trying to probably lump it into swords and sorcery in some way, but there is not really any sort of major sort of that sort of fantasy tome. But there is sort of a lot of fantasy combat. There's a lot of mythical creatures. Of course, the main villain, Lopan, is one of the greatest sorcerers of all time, and he has like a magic battle with another sorcerer, Eggshan. And I just think the movie is really fun. As a fan of fantasy, it's really awesome. As a fan of Kurt Russell, it's his best role ever. He's ridiculously funny in that movie because he's not like this epic hero who always saves the day. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and he fucks up a lot in that movie. And like the everyday Joe thrown into something that's just way above what he knows. And there's something about that movie that just hits all the right notes with me.
If it's 80s fantasy, I might be okay with it, but like because fantasy and sci-fi from the 80s, I actually like, but majority of all other fucking 80s movies, I do not care for. I fall asleep and I'm just like, this is boring. I don't care. Fucking Princess Bride, fucking love that movie. Amazing fucking movie. Blade Runner, great movie. Aliens, fantastic movie. But just a lot of, like, I don't care for Breakfast Club. I hate those kind of movies. and I hate Goonies. I'll say it right now. I fucking hate Goonies. I hate that movie with such a passion. It's such a bad movie.
It's funny. I like Goonies, but I know a lot of people. It's like I have to watch it every year. It's like I like Goonies, but not to that extent. Like it was one of my childhood favorites, but it's one of those movies that's just like as an adult, it's like I can watch like once every 3 years or so. Big Trouble in China, I can watch like forever and just love it because I just love the character. I just love the character so much, and it melds everything together. There's like a little bit of horror, a little bit of thriller, a lot of comedy, like unexpected, but there's a lot of tense moments. Like there's no, like the soundtrack is amazing because it's not goofy. It's actually quite intense for a soundtrack, and it's pretty awesome. But I think the comedy just mainly comes from Kurt Russell and the actor who played Egg Shen, who is amazing. Like one of the other most powerful sorcerers that's just got this wacky sense of humor. Just fucking awesome.
I see.
So, yeah. But at the same time, just trying to remake in this day and age, it's like, I don't know. It's just... And the thing about that movie, Taylor, is it bombed at the cinema. A lot of people did not get it. And when it got released on VHS for rental, it was the best-selling movie for like a year or
after he had done Escape from New York. Well, maybe because they saw him in that role, and then kind of had that. Because I don't know because that came out in what, 86, 87?
Yeah. Big Trouble in China came out in 86,
so
87.
I don't know the mindsets of the people going in at that time. So I don't know if they want to say that they didn't get it, but I mean, who knows? I honestly don't know what. Maybe they just didn't really respond to it well. Maybe it just did not fit the culture of the time, and overall, it eventually just kind of that's why it became that cult classic.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like to say, though, it's essentially the movie that got me into martial arts movies because the choreography is really good in Big Trouble in Little China. Like, the fight scenes are really good. We just sit down
that's
and watch.
Rather random. But that's also just because I wouldn't imagine a movie like that would be the reason why you got into martial arts. So, okay. I have one more piece. Do you want me to cover it real quick and then into the big stuff? All right. So this is kind of important. Steam refunds.
Yeah.
So Steam is now going to be issuing a refund for any reason if the request is made within 14 days of buying the title. There's a couple stipulations. First, the title you can only play it for 2 hours or less, but even if you kind of fall outside of that refund rule, after 14 days or 2 hours or 2 hours more, you can still ask, and they may be willing to still kind of cut you some slack on it, which I thought was pretty nice of them. The thing that I thought was interesting is there's because they go into different details about it, and the one detail is about abusing the system. And this line verbatim says, "We do not consider it abuse to request a refund on a title that was purchased just before a sale and then immediately buying that title for the sale price." How fucking cool is that?
Yeah.
I mean, you buy a game and then 2 days later it's on sale. Fuck me, I'd spent $10 more than I could have. And they're like, "Oh, no problem, bro. Just here, we'll refund you. Just buy it anyway." Thanks, guys. That's pretty interesting. It kind of makes you wonder if they're doing this because the whole GOG no DRM thing is going to like swiftly kick them in the nuts, sort of thing. So they're trying to get ahead of it by doing this sort of thing. But
yeah. And I know some retail businesses, like one of my biggest electronic retailers, JB Hi-Fi. If I pre-order something and they change the price midway, they'll actually refund me the price difference, which is awesome when they do that. And I wish more people do that because I've been burned sometimes where I bought when I bought my 3DS, I bought it a week before it went down, across the board, and they didn't do anything. which I thought was pretty pretty dumb for them. But no, dumb for me, I should say, because it didn't wait that week. But I didn't know. But I think it's really cool that they're giving the customers more options. I would like to know how this sort of affects the developers. Of course, it'd probably motivate them to make a much better product. But at the same time, I think their rules is what makes it great. 2 hours is an effective time frame for someone to like a game or not. So within 2 hours, you like the game, awesome, continue playing it. If you don't, get your money back, try again with another game, That's pretty awesome. But I'm wondering for like people who make really shitty games, this could wipe them out. Like I've seen some worst games of 2014 list, and a lot of them were Steam games.
Sorry to interrupt on that point. It didn't even matter that there was a Nintendo seal of approval. There will always be shitty games.
Of course, I'm not arguing that.
Shitty games will not go extinct because of this. I mean, we would all hope and wish it were the case, but
yeah, but no, the developers would be less inclined. I mean, a lot of people that sort of leave because they have bad criticism for making shitty games, but they can usually walk away with people's money while they're doing it. They probably won't be able to, with this in play. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It would encourage people to make a better game, which is awesome. Like, someone made this game, I think it was either a year or two ago, where you had to raid an airplane, and it was so laughable how it was made. It was just like, this is stuff that you would teach like a year 8 computer class.
Ouch.
And they've made it to a Steam game, and at full price. And people are like, no, you cannot release something like this for full price. We want our money back. And now they have this system in place, they can do that. And like the big time developers who do spend a lot of blood, sweat, and tears making something like a decent 10 to 20, even to like, a 50-hour game, they can just have people play it for 2 hours and just be like, oh, cool. But that will actually that'll make people who make games like, you have to make the game interesting in this sort of time frame, or at least advertise it that it will get more interesting as the game goes along.
Greg, and that's kind of a usual thing, though, is that you're kind of always... There's a ticking clock of within an initial window that there's something there to entertain, to grab your attention. I mean, that's the case with books, it's the case with TV series, it's the case with movies. Albeit you've already paid the money, so odds are you're probably just going to sit there and watch the damn thing anyways, even if it is bad for the first 30 minutes or so. But I mean, that doesn't bother me, that there's this 2 hour window in that regard. I mean, yeah, for us and our love and affinity towards RPGs of the longer persuasion, if it's a slow burner, you buy it on sale. I mean, you don't have to fucking buy a game when it first comes out. And if you already have a bajillion games, why are you buying more games? Why aren't you playing and finishing up these other games first? Don't just, like... Yeah. I know I've mentioned it before. I'm making a game. I don't want you to just buy the game that I make if you aren't going to play it. I mean, that to me doesn't... As somebody who wants to, like, create something, if I wrote a story and you, like, oh yeah, I bought the book, if you don't read it, I mean, yeah, it helps me financially, but it doesn't help me, quote-unquote, spiritually. It doesn't... Money is whatever. I could be in squalor conditions, and yeah, it might help a lot, but if you're not willing to invest into it when other people are putting time and effort into it, albeit sometimes, like that one game you're mentioning, they're totally not, and they're just trying to get money. But I mean, just don't. If you got a bunch of games, play the fucking games.
Yeah, I think this. At the end of the day, I think this is great though for consumers. Like they get to probably try a whole bunch of games, and they'll at least finally hit one that hits all the right notes, and they will, as you say, play.
Well, that was the thing. They warned, don't be just trying to they'll look into it, and if people are kind of gaming the system and stuff, they won't give you the refund if
Yeah.
they kind of deem you to be a bit shady about the whole process. So
Yeah, fair enough.
Whew.
Awesome.
All right, get into the big stuff.
And it is that time again where the court is in session and the Lords of the Emblem say their piece. Dun, 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 dun. Yes, I was wondering if I could use actually the level up theme, but then Nintendo would be
That's
like,
why you just do it.
But I don't know.
Do it with your own voice. Dun, 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 dun.
Which I just did. Alrighty, something very cool happening in Fire Emblem If that was shown at the Nintendo Direct. Apparently, we get to make our own towns now, Taylor. It's a little feature called My Castle, where you actually get to create your own base. And how it works out just like another battlefield in Fire Emblem, but you basically get to put all the structures there, and they kind of work the similar way like the towns work in Fire Emblem, where if you go visit them, they give you free shit, or they give you advice, and you have to get there before the marauders come down and burn them down. Same thing, but except every building sort of has a function. Like, one of them will be like the armory where you go in and you buy stuff, and you get to sort of like mix and match, and you get to pop them wherever you want. Here's the thing for multiplayer fans. In these battles where you can battle into someone's castle, essentially, you actually have to raise it to the ground. Not just take out the characters, you've got to raise the buildings as well. Sort of like to add that extra hint of strategy to the game, which I think is pretty cool. So I don't know if they're going to integrate this into the main story. I don't think so, but it's kind of cool that if they do, it'll be the way to sort of like have this progression where you can only access this thing if you invest so much money into this, and whether it will add to the overall Fire Emblem experience, only time will tell, but it's an interesting little feature. I'm more excited for it in a multiplayer aspect than a main story aspect. So, and the thing they wanted to show off, which I think is kind of a nice little cosmetic thing, but it's not like necessary, is that you can always zoom in to the character's perspective, and he can look at the town like close up, and sort of like in a battle, sort of like attack view or whatever. Pretty cool. Just a nice little thing that's going to be thrown in for Fire Emblem If. But
yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Like from a multiplayer, because I've always been interested in having those multiplayer battles in a Fire Emblem setting.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that could possibly. It could, if it does unfold and is entertaining, that'd be really, really like a new possible avenue for Fire Emblem and whatnot to kind of branch out. And if you're having to raise buildings, that's really unfortunate, because everything's going to it's going to burn to the fucking ground. So it almost kind of like the way you were describing it first kind of made me think of that one like prelude quick chapter that's in which one is that in? Is it in Nekanoken? Where you're in the town and you can do shopping for 5 turns?
Because I recently played it, and I'm trying to think, because you had the town, then you got the battle within sort of like the church, and
right, because there's the one the swordswoman. If you you have to fight her, but you have to survive with Barde.
Yeah.
So and that's So because that's what I was thinking of initially, was just kind of this random town you just moving around in and just kind of do. So.
I mean, yeah, it'd be nice if you could capture the buildings instead. That'd be awesome, and you get to use their facilities. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, this could be just a multiplayer thing, and they might just be having the normal Fire Emblem experience. Now, one thing that I don't do on these segments, you know, sort of like to keep us sort of like anticipating, is I don't go into the character details because we'd be here forever, and I'd rather people experience that firsthand, or at least go to the many news sites and read up the character bios, because places like Silicon Era and Gmatsu, they've been like giving like real full detail character bios, and I'm like, I'm not going to go into it, but I've been reading them, and interesting on both sides, the different sort of families, because most of the characters I've talked about are the family members, not so much the extra side characters. But I do like the fact that the Hoshino clan has a butler who's kind of like a strategist. And the one line that kind of made me like, this is going to be interesting, is he only likes the main character and has no affection for the other family members. And I know people can misconstrue that. Please don't.
Obviously, it means he wants to stick into his rump. I'm sorry, that was offensive. No, it wasn't. It was actually totally on cue with, you know, somebody has affection for somebody. That obviously means they want to do it, right? I know it's bullshit. They have the mentality these days. You know, I don't know if it's going to be this degree. Think Alfred and Batman. I don't know. I'm just pulling that out there. Probably they totally
not,
had
but
sexual
yeah,
encounters between each other. I think Batman turns out as screwed up as he is. I'm horrible.
Yeah. But no, I think it's cool. I think it's cool though, because it's going to lead to some interesting conversation where like he'll be there for like the best of the main character, but anyone else wants to do that, you're probably going to shoot them down. So it'd be interesting. But I think I posted on my Facebook the other day is they showed like they opened the website for Fire Emblem Myth, and the front page is stunning. It's so beautiful. It has the Hoshino clan, the Noa Empire, and they're together with like the songstress character holding a spear aloft, and it's got like the twilight sort of like going into the dawn with the two kingdoms. Like I think my quote was on Facebook, "This is the best piece of art I have seen in 2015." And as much as I basically gave, because essentially it's the same artist as Awakening, and I kind of gave Awakening sort of flack for that, but whoever this artist was made leaps and bounds better decision for the character designs in If. Whether the character models will be better, I don't think so. I think what I've seen, they look cool, but they still have those tiny little fucking feet.
The cloven heroes of Oshino clan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like just extend those feet just a little bit, and I will be happy. Oh man, but it's a small little tidbit in the grand scheme of things. It's still awesome. I'm still really looking forward to it, and the fact they keep adding new stuff is amazing. Oh, and here's something Taylor won't really. I wouldn't say you wouldn't care for, but you knew it was coming. Amiibo connectivity. If you have Marth, Ike, Lucina, and Robin, you can put them into the battlefield in Fire Emblem Myth. Yeah, and people are like, oh my god, this is amazing. It's like, well, this is not new, because you could download these characters in Fire Emblem Awakening. So
Right, yeah. You get two of them. You didn't need to download one of them.
Yeah, you didn't need to download Lucina or Robin.
Both of them. Yeah.
This is a thing that I'm not going to be shocked on anymore. I am assuming that all Nintendo products from now on is going to have Amiibo connectivity. It won't make the game, it'll just slightly enhance it. Well, not enhance it.
Just it adds to it, but I don't... But to me, it's just like an extraneous thing that's... I mean, I don't know. I don't really care for it. Don't really care for the Amiibo thing. I mean, this is another one of those things. I'm not vehemently opposed to it like I am with the Fallout thing, but it's just a thing that I'm like, maybe it's part of it's just not having the money for it, or just not even having a Wii U or whatnot. But I'm just like, nah. Pass.
But this is it's funny you say that, because I will actually, if I was to use it, I would actually have to buy an amiibo reader, because this is for the 3DS. So I would need to get the amiibo reader to use on my old 3DS, because the functionality only comes with the new 3DS. Pardon me. So, and yeah, like, it doesn't make the game. It's just for a hardcore fan of me. It's fan service. And the one thing I like about the amiibos, Taylor, is they're not just one-off use for one game. They will be connected to a ton of games, you know? And that's really cool. Like, the main one that features the Fire Emblem amiibos, of course, is Project, codenamed Steam. You can put them as characters, and now here's another game where you can put them as characters. And like I said, it's not a necessity, but it would be nice to have, like, an extra... in one hand, it's fun if you're a fan, but it kind of takes away from the experience of the unique experience of that world to see, like, the radiant hero of legend come out of nowhere.
That's a really good point.
Is
that here you have, and this is what we harped on about Awakening, is that it tried to borrow all these elements from these other games instead of providing a completely unique game. Which, I guess it could without the DLC, but it was still a shit game. Because it's still borrowing elements from earlier games instead of trying to be, its own thing. And when you have those kind of things, you're in a way putting a false impression of the original game, because you have these extra things that you can just put into it, and that's I don't want to say false. Well, I'll say I'll keep with the false thing, because it's not the truth of the game, just as it is standalone, and just.
I'm hoping they put some sort of like a limit in place. Because if you have all 4 amiibos and you could put all 4 characters in battle, it's like, that's overkill. Like, to have 3 Lord characters and 1 tactician, on top of what you have, that's nuts. Because it's contrary to the rule. I know Lord characters are, like, essential, don't get killed or you lose the battle. But
not all of them.
But they're also one of the most powerful units in the game. Like, I liked Linda's because she was the most sort of the most riskiest Lord in the entire franchise. It's like, she can take most out in 1 hit and 2 hits, but if someone gets to her, she can get taken out easily as well. So you have to make the sort of the right choice. That's why I liked Lyn. It's like, well, I have to kill the boss in 1 hit, otherwise the boss will kill Lyn. It's that simple. But to have all these characters, and you know what? To make it difficult, if you put these amiibos in the game, you cannot have one of them die. But that would make no sense because they have no sort of bearing on the story.
And then you get into the whole thing about how it's kind of it muddies, murkies the water, and you're.
If the story wasn't worth this sort of like this admiration, like no one would bat an eye. But we do love these characters and we do love these straggles. But it also brings in this faulty sense of, well, Martha's a time traveler, Ika's a time traveler, and
just like so asinine though. It's so painfully asinine. They're time travelers. It's just such a bullshit kooky thing to just tie in something. It's time travel fun zone. Here we go. Woo!
And there's probably a lot of listeners trying to chime us like, guys, you're making way too much sense of this. Like there's probably no thought gone into this. And of course, there is only one thought process that gone into this. People will buy our amiibos, so they can like extend it. And you know me, good sir. You've known me for a long time. I love collecting figurines. That is the quintessential first thing why I buy these amiibos, because they're figurines.
Right.
Who just happen to have DLC content on the side. It is not the DLC content is not the main reason I buy these amiibos. It's just something else I can do with having them. And I own Marth and Ike. As soon as If comes out, I can use them. Whether I want to is another story, and that's the thing, everyone. If you don't want to, you don't have to use them. And
Well, that's and that's
we'll
what
see
I'm saying.
what
I'm not
happens.
saying I'm not like that's exactly if that's your money, that's what you're spending it on. If you want to use it for that purpose, that's fine. I'm just expressing my thoughts on what that to me that's what that feels like, and I don't mind some kind of like figuring. Personally, I'm a bigger fan of the Dragon Quest ones just because I like Toriyama's artwork and slimes and drakeys.
I'm really surprised you said Drakies. It's like I know Slime's like
I
you
do.
like
I
Drakies
actually
as well.
got one. That's, he's just kind of chilling with me right here. He's I don't have any other things representing it really, but it's always one that I've had a little bit of a warm spot for that he just doesn't get the love.
You might think I'm weird, but I like mimics and cannon
Yeah, you are weird.
I know. I've always wanted chests around my room. It's like I want a fucking mimic that looks like it will bite your hand off. It's just really, really cool. But yeah, I'll see what happens. Like I might enjoy if so much I won't worry about like the amiibo connectivity.
Well, right, and if you don't like the story, and then you're just like, well, whatever, and then maybe that connectivity is something that interests you more into doing it.
Oh! If we have another battle like the end of Chapter 2 and Radiant Dawn, the Radiant Hero will come and make things easier for me. We'll see how long I can last before I'll be like, nope, fuck this, funk. But anyway, like if you're, the highest echelon of Fire Emblem fans, if you crave everything Fire Emblem, just a nice little thing Nintendo's done for you that you can sort of like take joy in. But it depends if I'm making things up now. If that's the way you love the series, then go for it. Or you could be a purist and just like the game when it's lonesome. Any way you want to play the game, go for it.
Yeah, because I'm not going to stop you, and I'm not going to say that because you do it differently that you're any less of a fan for it. It's just I personally I'm just really adamantly against it.
Trust me, that's not an argument that's going on right now. The only argument going around the Fire Emblem fan base is Illusionary Revelations, Sharp F. That's the only thing that's getting talked about back and forth.
I don't even know why.
Anyway, that is it for another Lords of the Emblem segment. I hope you're getting excited for having your own castles. It's just funny, they always have this my element that they've been injecting into the last couple of Fire Emblem games. Like you have my unit was kind of like the first one, which came in like the remake of Mystery of the Emblem, and then they led that to just like, oh, we'll just have a prerequisite sort of like main character that you name and everything as a secondary character to Chrom. And now for Fire Emblem, it's like, let's have a normal one. But then they have to incorporate another my element to the game with my cousin. So, it'd be interesting. It would be my villain, but that makes no sense. In the future, you get to create your own Fire Emblem villain. And it's like, well, you kind of do a good job most of the time, sans Awakening. So, seriously, I love Fire Emblem villains, but that was probably the biggest sort of like reasons why I didn't like Awakenings, because the villains were just
Belda gets a lot of flack for Thrakia, but I don't know if that's just because he sucks as a unit when you fight him, or if people actually care for him in the story for Thrakia. But
I mean, a lot of people don't really care for Sacred Stones, but I thought Leon was a pretty cool villain, actually.
Yeah, that's another one that's a little bit of a... but, I mean, funny that you bring up Sacred Stones, because that's, Awakening 0.5. Lo and behold, surprise, this is why... Yeah, I don't know, Leon is Leon. And... I don't know. I've never really had much of a compared to the other kind of antagonists. He's definitely lower on the list for me.
Here's my honest opinion of Medeus. I don't hate Medeus, but he is one of the most carbon copy RPG villains of the 90s. He is boom. He is godlike. Nothing really else to add.
It's all about Ganef. Ganef's the one that you're like,
yes,
oh, shit, this dude's an asshole.
Yes.
Or
He's actually one of my favorite Fire Emblem villains is Garnet. He's fucking cool. Like, he's like, you little turd.
A little nod to Moses in the original. I don't know what they called him in the translation, but he's the dude that's sitting on Marth's throne when he takes back his castle.
Yeah.
That asshole, he gets a little special nod from me because he liked to dig in deep about saying how he killed his mother with his hand, and by this hand I gave your sister to Ganef and all this sort of stuff. And you're like, man, you're an asshole. So,
of course, the Black Fang is awesome. Of course, the Feel, all pretty cool villains. So, yeah. But anyway, that will be the official sort of ending of the segment. Hopefully there'll be more Fire Emblem news in the future for us to dig into. The clock is ticking and the days are flowing, man. It's nearly there, so... Oh, man, I'm going to be picking your brains. Like, it'll just be a session, whether it be, offline or... we're always online. What the fuck? Whether it be off the air or on the air, we will be talking about it, so... Alrighty, and, Taylor, my inbox got flooded this morning. With, because when everyone thinks of this game, they kind of think of me and a couple of other people, which I'm very flattered by.
I never get thought of about
very
it.
flattered.
This is kind of funny. I don't
dude.
know.
Dude,
nobody ever
it's
approaches
funny.
me about this at all, which is kind of funny. Except for you.
Except me. Except me. Except me. There was news that just came out this morning that something that I kind of already knew about, that was rumored, has been officially confirmed for release, is Sen no Kiseki 1 and 2, otherwise renamed The Trails of Cold Steel, is going to get a release. Now, the thing is we knew 1 was coming. Well, it was rumored, but we didn't know about 2. But luckily, it's a package deal. Not literally, though. 1 and 2 are going to be coming out, which is awesome. The thing that really blew me away, they said this fall, and I'm like, holy shit. Of course, I'm not sort of like, we're seeing that as like the ironclad date, but they seem pretty convinced, like they've already translated the game. They're just sort of doing the QA, and they're going to be doing voice recording soon. So that's pretty crazy to think they've come that far with the game. And I'm excited, man. I know we're going to have a little bit of back and forth about the Trail series as a whole in a minute, but initial impressions, of course, I'm excited. It's one of my most favorite RPG series that I've experienced in the last couple of years. Big thanks to Taylor, but I've already known about the series before me and Taylor met, but he was the one to say, Greg, you need to get it. Like, I think it was months before Xseed released Trails and Sky on PSP. It's like, Greg, no, you really need to play it. And I was like, okay. Just because he knew how much I loved East, so he knew I probably loved this just as much. And I was kind of hesitant, like, I don't know if I could love anything as much as East did. And then I played Trails and Sky. It's like, oh, shit, yeah, I do like this as much as I love East. So I've always had an affinity for it. And getting through all these years where there've been no Legend of Heroes games localized, I kind of gave up halfway through. Instead of bad-mouthing Xseed like most people did, I just said, fuck it, I'll play in Japanese. And I did. I beat Al and Zero and Al no Kiseki and had the time of my life. The fantastic games that is like the highest echelon of games design for the Vita and PSP, even though they're also on the Vita. Which I actually want to talk about a little bit because it's interesting with the blog post that kind of confirms something that's kind of understandable, but we'll get into that. But all in all, awesome we're getting more Trails games. I'm looking forward to it. I was actually playing Sen no Kiseki days ago. I was playing Chapter 2, and now this news hit. And now because it's fall, I'm actually going to be putting it down. I've already played, like, the prelude chapter, Chapter 1, and a bit of Chapter 2. I can put the game down and wait for
10, 14 hours in at most? Yeah.
Yeah. So I can definitely wait for the game, so I'm probably going to pick up and go back to the Gagarv trilogy, so it's going to be awesome. But yeah, happy times. One thing I do want to get out there is I saw the logo and I was like, oh, that is such a cool logo. And such a small thing, but wow, it's beautiful. Like, if I went to a game store and I saw that logo, I'd think, damn, you have my attention. So, really cool. I really enjoyed the game, what I've played of it. Still a lot to experience, but really happy. Now, reading this blog is really interesting because they mention how they talked to President Kondo over at Falcom, and apparently he was really overjoyous when they told the idea they wanted to name it Trails of Cold Steel, and he says, "That's brilliant." I think that's really cool. So he gave them the A-OK. It's like, yeah, call it Trails of Cold Steel. I think that's awesome. We should have used some of that, but I reckon that's awesome. Now, the interesting thing that he talked about with Xseed, that it's interesting that he was the one to bring this up, was as he intentionally wanted younger, newer fans of the series to play, Sen no Kiseki, and to interest them to go back and play the older games. He said everyone in the community has this sort of like this. What's the word I'm looking for?
Affinity?
They think... Well, no, not affinity. They have this idea in their heads that they have to play the games in succession. And I can understand that. I can really understand that. And Taylor can vouch for that.
I will say that his reasoning for playing that and skipping the others is plausible because of the time frame that they take place. But... Yeah. I mean, especially with Zero and Ao no Kiseki, makes some sense, but it still pisses me off.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate just because of how great Zero and Ao no Kiseki are as stories in the quote-unquote sort of Zemurian sort of like saga, like the Legend of Heroes, and I love Trials in the Sky, but after playing Ao no Kiseki, I'm like, whoa. It takes it up to 11.
Yeah, it's one of those things that even though for the great scheme of things of how Zero and Ao are, isn't like completely, I love the games and, and the stories of them. It's not like they're completely these new grand ideas that have never been done before, but it's executed incredibly well.
Yeah, extremely well. So, this is the thing about the blog entry that really kind of nails in the coffin, because there's a lot of people out there they're still holding out for the Evolution versions of all these games. I'm here to say this: if you read that blog, Xseed has no intention of releasing them. And I can completely understand.
That's because they want to release more super titty bullshit games. So
the amount of stuff they'd have to invest in for the Evolution versions, I don't know if they would actually have. I wouldn't say they wouldn't have the money, but they wouldn't have sort of like they wouldn't think it would be a good investment, because essentially people have already sort of played these games. But of course. Well, I'm mainly talking about just FC, but people are mainly talking about Zero and Ao no Kiseki because they haven't got released yet. But it's more cost effective for them to invest in the PC versions of these games, and it sort of gives them to a wider audience. And the Vita, sadly, as much as me and Taylor love the Vita, it's actually kind of the least most selling gaming device as of now, which is really sad, especially outside of Japan. So for them to put all this money and effort into games that may necessarily not sell, it's a risk. It's a big risk. They consider probably Trails of Cold Steel a risk, but they probably consider it less of a risk. And they probably, I've said this a million times, they're going to try and garner this to a newer audience, but older fans, which kind of makes it really hard because there's only one game.
And that's the kind of the thing. At least with this series, there's only one game. But I mean, it's it just reinforces people's opinions that the third is completely skippable, and there's and you're missing so much stuff that goes on, and then when you shift over to Sen and Sen 2. It's going to intersect with things that are going on with Zero, particularly with Ao no Kiseki, but also in Zero no Kiseki.
Yeah.
But it's just I understand business wise and whatnot, but my big fear is that they're going to see this and they're going to think, wow, this is some sort of shitty Persona knockoff that's not nearly like edgy enough or something like that. And that's the big fear I've got, is that's gonna like come out and just like.
And can I say this to anyone that's listening? And it's just my humble opinion, and it's not me being a. I assume people would accuse me of being a diehard fanboy. I'm the Falcon fanatic. I was playing Sen the other day, going around Force Academy, and I thought it was on the same level as going around, Inaba High in Persona 4 and Gekkoukan High in Persona 3. I thought it was at the same level. I never thought this is a Persona ripoff. I thought both environments are equally great. And, when you go around Force Academy, there's so many students to talk to, and I assume the dialogue changes every sort of chapter. So, wow, that is so cool, and I like the theme that happens at Force Academy. It's really catchy. So, especially when it's taking place in, the sun is setting, because you always go around the school at the end of class when the sun is setting. It's just like, Falcon, you know how to make me happy. Your game experiences. But I never thought that this is a Persona knockoff. And you know what? Yes, there is a segment in some parts of the game where you do have to answer questions. And what it garners,
good luck fucking answering
more
those, because some of those are fucking hard questions that are like based in the reality of the game. If you aren't knowledgeable of the world, the machinations that are going on within the world, you're just gonna have to guess.
You know what's funny? This is the thing that propelled me to play Sen no Kiseki before this announcement. Is I went on GameFAQs, and the awesome guy that did the walkthroughs for Zero now, I think he's taken a break, which is rightfully so after doing a walkthrough for both of those games. So I typed in Sen no Kiseki guide, because this, GameFAQs is not the be all end all. There's other sites. Apparently someone did a guide on IGN of all places.
Huh.
Of the game, and it's pretty cool, except one thing. He actually tells you what answer to answer, but you know what, Taylor? He doesn't tell you what answer that falls under. It's like, your answer is orbal enhancement. Good. So which section selection is that? He doesn't tell you. It doesn't help me that he translated and not tell me which one that is. So, yes, I've had a couple of instances when I started chapter 2, and I've had to reload it because I didn't answer the question right. I knew what it meant, but I didn't know what selection it was. And it happened twice in that era, because, you have the class moment, and then you have a moment where you're chatting outside the school with another character, and you have to answer another question. And these questions will incur AP points, which is, if you play Trails in the Sky, you've got your, the Braces Guild, where if you do a job correctly, you earn these points. And this is something that's constantly happening in the Kiseki series. So if you want 100%, you have to answer every question right. So, yeah.
Pretty much, and that's what made Zeto and Aono Kiseki's great. Yeah, especially with Zeto, because you get this, you're part of your department in the police, and there's certain things that you're investigating. You have to determine why, what happened at this crime scene, sort of thing. And so you have to actually reason out and then say, this is what happened. This is the motive, and for certain things and whatnot. I love that in those games, and it's just I don't give a rat's ass for the school setting. And
yeah, I wanted just to interrupt very quick. I agree with you with Zen and Al. I love the deduction, especially when towards the end of the chapter, you have to answer a bunch of thoughts in Lloyd's head. Like, I think this took place, and I think it took place this way, and it sort of awards your dedication to the story, and just getting all these little intricate details, and sort of that's kind of what I like about Phoenix Wright. They made a game out of that, but even though it's a small little thing for the Kiseki, which is awesome. So I think it also happens in Sen. Like, I've had one instance in Chapter 1 where Reen had to give his ideas, and he gave up selection. What do you think about this? And I think he gave his thoughts, and everyone was, like, surprised. Like, oh, wow, we didn't even think of that. You know? So, no, it's a nice little touch that I like about the Kiseki series as a whole. And, yeah, the school setting, like, with Persona, it can sort of cross over to real-world sort of teachings, like, you know, this and this and this. With, as you said, with Sen, only sort of like the hardened sort of Kiseki fans would know this and this and this. So I would definitely say Trials of Cold Steel will have some dedicated people doing some lengthy walkthroughs. So you must answer question A at time B and all this jazz. But I will say this, like we've mentioned before, the graphics system, like, oh, will this game hold up? It's like, I'm going to say this now, I think the story and the music is well enough to not really care about what the game looks, and the game looks fine to me. I will say, like, on the Vita, there is some slowdown, but it's not game-breaking. Like, you know, it doesn't bother me.
It will bother some people.
It sadly, I would probably say it will. Like, I noticed, like, whenever they do some still shots, like, I think there was one segment in Chapter 2 where, like, they're in computer class, which I found actually quite amusing. The Kiseki version of computer lab. And, I noticed in one segment, like, they'll have the shot, just one single shot of the three characters there, and it'll run smoothly. If they do a panning shot, that's when the game sort of does a little bit of a slowdown. I noticed that in the class segment where they're trying to pan the entire class, it's like there's some parts that's like, and it's like, all right, you know, Falcom's not like the richest company in the world, and then don't have like the biggest team, but goddamn, do they make some of the best concepts and still best games. But you know, they're still like when it comes to Q&A, they're still kind of, going at it, and it's not like they're the worst because they release games like E7, no problems, you know. I don't think Cell Center had any problems.
I think there were a few.
A little bit, but not noticeable.
Well, I think there was a couple hiccups that they had to patch, if I recall.
It's mainly just with the latest Legend of Heroes games that they've always had to patch, so... But, yeah, I think most people that go into Trials Cold Skill, I think they're the people that like story first, so they'll probably get into that directly. They'll probably like the characters, depending on what your thing is. Falcom's music is there, and it's amazing. Sen no Kiseki soundtrack is... I was listening to it just as we made the call, so... that is something you certainly don't need to worry about, you know. And I think that's going to convince a lot of people to keep playing the game. They'll just be like, oh, I'm going to... Oh my god, this is amazing!
Yeah, it's definitely got some good tracks. I'm a little bit more... I think this is also... I like Zero and Aono Kiseki's a little bit more as a whole compared to Sen 1 and 2's. There's some really good tracks from Sen 1 and 2. I'd have to look at the title. Like, there one in particular battle theme that comes up when there's a certain thing going on. I'll just be that vague with it. There's a certain thing that goes on, and because of that, there's a specific battle theme, and that battle theme is pretty badass. But
yeah, it's amazing. I love it. Unfathom Force. Oh, that is such a good track. It's like, and I was actually sitting there, and I'm sadly this is not going to happen. I said they should really use that track throughout the entire series as a member of that quote unquote organization fights, but no, apparently they change it in Sen. So
yeah, in Sen 2 you get some very different stuff just with the different members of that group. So. Yeah,
but not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I'm obsessed with the opening theme to Sen 2. I constantly listen to that. But I haven't listened to much of the rest of the soundtrack of Sen 2. I've listened to like little bits and pieces, but Sen 1's I've listened to in its entirety, and like a ton of it. It's really awesome. But I do agree with you with Zero and Al. They have some truly memorable tracks that kind of puts Falcom JDK on the map above everything else. So I know we've talked about this so many times. Your feelings with the school system's not your thing, which is totally understandable.
Right.
And I hate high school anime. I'm done with anime settings in anime. High school settings in anime. I'm done with it. But the fact that they're all, children of nobles, that's the part that sort of compels me to play Not all of them.
But
not all of them. But they're up against...
Right. There's a good chunk of them, but not all of them are children of nobles. They're, either children of very important people or that sort of thing, usually. So
high society, most of them high society. So, and then that's the part I did research on most of these characters and listening to their backstory and their families, and that's what interests me. Like Matthias, I look at his backstory and it's like, oh, cool. I like his backstory.
He's also sporting a fucking shotgun.
He's like the quote unquote smart guy. What do you use? A shotgun.
Boom.
That's kind of like a parallel.
It's definitely different. With some of that, and plus they change it. They go from the grid style that's boxed and stuff from all the way back to the first Trails game to Ao Kiseki, and then they changed it to this round kind of free moving area sort of thing, which isn't bad, but I don't know how to put it. It feels really condensed.
In a way, I mean, it's not new. I remember Ark the Lad way back. Ark the Lad was a very typical strategy RPG, grid based. But then when the PS2 games came out, they did the exact same thing. It was all circular. So it's not new. It's kind of, when you think it is the progression, but it's up to you whether you want that to happen, because strategy RPGs with a grid based system, they work. They work. It's up to them if you want to change it and enhance it, but it does. I honestly wasn't bothered by it too much, but I can understand why they did it at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not harping on it too bad. It just felt a lot smaller in your area of fighting than the other games. It feels like you don't have as much area to move. Maybe that's just me, but
oh, internet problems abound.
It's all this crazy tornadic activity I've got going.
I thought it might be on my end, but because it's been going good so far, and we're having a wonderful chat about the Seki series. But I shall continue on. I ultimately I am super excited for Trails of Cold Steel. It's kind of like up there with Metal Gear Solid 5. And of course, don't forget Trails in the Sky second chapter, which presumably is going to be released before Cold Steel. That's actually the last thing I want to end this segment on, Taylor. If these games get released back to back,
they just screwed the pooch on SC.
As for a hardcore fan, for me, it doesn't bother me. It's like, awesome! I've essentially got a 200-hour gaming experience ahead of me. But for the average sort of gamer that likes RPGs but are not they're not fully into it, there's going to be a whole heap of deliberating that's going to be happening for the next couple of weeks. And then I will this is my foresight. There's going to be a lot of people, and I can see that Xseed will be like, well, to our younger audience, you may want to start with Trails of Cold Steel. For our, for everyone who played FC and loves it, you probably want to go straight to SC, And it's going to be weird for me because it's going to be like a huge time jump. I'm probably going to play SC, then I'm going to play Trails of Cold Steel, and it's going to be this huge time jump where poor old the third's going to be the one that's going to be left in the dust. I'm wondering if I should wait for Cold Steel, and my original plan was to beat SC and then put in my PS3 version of the third Kai and just beat that. But if Cold Steel comes out, I might be more inclined to play that. So I'm going back and forth with the timeline. I've kind of screwed it up. You know what it feels like, good sir?
What is it?
It feels like me playing these. Here I am, in the Vortex of Canaan when he's 24, 25 years of age, and now I'm playing Salcedo where he's 18 years of age, and going back and forth, and I'm like, but who cares? Falcom games are wonderful, and I can play them at any time, anywhere, anytime in the history of these games. I'm up for it, so.
It's good to see more games in the series make it from Japan. I just really wish they could find a way to get Zero and Owl, because those are the ones that I'm just like, these are the games.
and this is my sort of warning bell to everyone. If you want Zero and Owl at least, then really support the next 3 games. Like, really support them. Don't just say, oh, I'll be interested. Like, if you're a fan, just do it. Just really go out there. And of course, I know that kind of goes back to what we're saying about just don't buy games if you're not going to play them. But really, buy them, play them, really enjoy them. I know for me, there is no effort needed. I boot up these games and they take away my life. So I'll definitely be up for it. But I'm really hoping that these games do really sell well, because if memory serves me correctly, FC on Steam sold a lot more than it did on PSP, but there's a lot of people, because Trails in the Sky FC got a lot of coverage, not just from me and you, it got a lot of coverage from RPG sites giving it like high awards. Like saying it was one of the best story-based RPGs they've played in a long time. That kind of stuck with people who are like really story-centric with their video games, so it's out there. It's in video game lore.
But I've also seen some negatives about that it's too slow. The one that I laughed about was that it's generic. Somebody actually said that the game was generic with its characters and its story.
It's just it's baffling to think.
I mean, I don't know. It's not like, it depends on what you mean by generic, because if your parameter for generic is saving something, like saving a kingdom, saving the world, etc. Every game, well, not every game, but a lot of games are generic in that regard. And I don't know. I just like. It honestly felt like they didn't even play. Or it's not that they didn't play the game; they just rushed through it and didn't try to. And I mean, you don't have to talk to everybody, but if you're not going around talking to different people, immersing yourself into the world of the game, it's going to feel very generic, because you're just doing things to just beat a game real quick.
And that's why I'm glad I played RPGs in the 90s, because we just did it. We just went up to people, we talked about people, because that was just source of information, and it was also, we've discussed this many times, but it's one of my favorite points of RPGs, is little puzzle pieces that are telling you the environment and the everyday lives of these people and the culture. If you skip that, you skip knowing about the culture and, enhancing the game greatly. That's why I want to give Trails in the Sky like the #1 award of the best NPC dialogue in any video game I've ever played. Like, and there's not many other video games where the main character will talk back to some person on the street, That's why I love Trails in the Sky, because Estelle always had something to add to proceedings of many people out in LeBron, and Estelle's amazing. Like, I saw the translation for the stuff at SC. I was laughing my guts out. Like, I think there's a penguin boss that you find SC, and have you seen like little screenshot of her reaction? Oh, great, another penguin.
I would say, I can guess from remember playing it, what happens, but I've not seen that particular screenshot, but. She's I don't think she says another. She might say something like, I don't think she says another penguin, but she might like say another pervert or something like that. Or I'd have to play it again. But
yeah, it's one of those. Must be in your areas, because they've just been kind of on and out. God damn it.
Well, I guess that's a good sign to cut it off there then.
But yeah, no more talking about how awesome Trails is and how awesome XCD is for bringing out more Trails games. I really, really hope it does well. Now, I do believe that Sony is the reason they'll have the voice acting and everything. They're definitely helping them out a little bit because of how well it did in Japan and everything else. Yeah, I wish them well for like the next part of the game's development and all the voice recording that will be needed. Because there is a lot of it.
So.
Anyways, before we totally have no connection, how about we actually get into a...
Did you want to, though? Because it's kind of a bigger thing, and if we're having these connection issues, it might be better to cut it off right here, to be honest. Unfortunately.
Yeah. What we'll do... Yeah, you know what? Okay. Next week, what we'll do is we'll probably forego our, like... Because it's 1 week before E3 and we're going to get bombarded with news, how about we, like, don't really do many news reports? Because we do our news reports and it's nearly, like, 2 hours into the recording. So, how about we don't do many news segments next week and we just focus on the topic at hand?
All right. And this, let's bring up the topic just so that if anybody, did listen all the way through, they'll have something to say. And that's diversity in games and the problem or the perceived problem of the lack of diversity in games. We'll have fun with that one.
We'll definitely have fun with it. I mean, I've already brought up like a point. We've already brought it out last week with the whole problem with quote unquote the Tokyo RPGs. The lack of diversity between the characters and how I talked about like stuff like Project Treasure is a nice new IP that sort of does a bit. So yeah, we'll definitely have a great in-depth discussion about that. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, take us home before the internet dies.
Alrighty, everyone, come aboard the airship sailing the skies of Zemuria. That is it for another Saturday Mornings with Trusler and Mac. I hope you enjoyed it. I know we definitely have, and I hope you look forward to next week's episode. As for now, hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.
All right. Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. We're off. Got to turn you off.